And I find that to be a number one characteristic of all the successful or the most successful people. It's not the intelligence. It's not the physical appearance. It's not the upbringing. It's certainly nothing like the gender, skin color, any of that. It's the hunger. You either have it or you don't have it. Is it something that is in genes? I don't know. I don't know the answer for it. I don't think anybody knows how much of that is genes, how much of that is the nurture, the upbringing.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Michael Serwa, who is the number one coach in the United Kingdom. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and create harmony to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. Today's quote comes from Tom Landry. A coach is someone who tells you what you don't want to hear, who has you see what you don't want to see, so you can be who you've always known you could be. That's the power of coaching. And it helps when you have somebody on your team who is out for your best interest and doesn't have a conflict of interest with you. And that's not always easy to find. Where many times, at least some of the coaches I've seen, they have a system. Well, that's wonderful that they have a coaching system, but it's much more personal than that. And so you have to actually find your own path and think through that and figure out what works for you, not what worked for someone else. Speaking of achieving goals and being all you can be, let me ask you a question. When are kids happier? At 6 a.m. on Christmas Day or at 6 p.m. on Christmas Day? My guess it's at 6 a.m. in the anticipation of what's coming. But once you get it, it's boring. Life's like that too. Do you have something in your life that you're excited for and looking forward to? Or has it all happened already and now it's ho-hum? That's a choice you make, and it's a bit of what we're going to chat about today. Having something to strive for, to improve your life, even after you achieve financial success. I'm excited to chat with Michael today because he is the top coach in the United Kingdom. And I always like learning from the best so I can improve myself. Michael Serwa coaches the elite using his signature no BS approach. Starting in 2011, he has built one of the most successful coaching practices in the world. He is author of From Good to Amazing, and he has been featured in Forbes, GQ, The Times, The Observer, The Telegraph, and on BBC and Sky News. And today, he's featured with us. Let's meet Michael. Welcome to Richer Soul, Michael Serwa. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you very much for having me, Rocky.
And I'm excited to learn from you. We always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
About money, eh? Not much. When I think about education, I see that as one of the problems of the current education, not just in Poland where I'm from, but in general, because nobody taught me anything about money until I started to learn about it myself in my late 20s, I think, right? As part of my personal development journey as a whole. And then when it comes to things like investing, I only started to learn about it 2 years ago, so at the age of 37. So yeah, I had a great childhood. I had a very loving upbringing and great memories are still there and all of that. But we were relatively poor, let's say lower middle class in Poland. So that's like, I suppose, working class in terms of the access to resources in more developed countries, richer countries. But because everybody around me was just as poor, and at the same time, it's not like I don't want to exaggerate. I've never been hungry in my life because there was enough food on the plate or at the table. But there was no money, and there was certainly no education about money. Not from my parents, not throughout my education. I haven't spent very long time when it comes to traditional education because I quit school at 17. So everything I know about money came from self-education as part of my personal development journey, as I said before.
What prompted you to quit school at 17?
I was bored. I was bored to the point, and I appreciate I was bored too, but I didn't quit. Well, I am exceptional at very few things, but the things I'm exceptional at, I'm very exceptional at those things, right? And one of those things is I really act on the things I feel very strongly about. I'm very good at executing on those things, and that's not necessarily always a good thing, because if I'm very convinced that I should do something that could be bad for me, I would still do it, right? If I manage to convince myself that that's the right thing to do. But in that particular case, I was in one of the best high schools in one of the biggest cities in Poland that I grew up in. I certainly didn't have any problems with teachers. Nobody was bullying me or anything like that. I was smart enough to learn what I had to learn to go from one year to another. But I was just so bored. And because I've always had a ballsy nature, if you will, as well, unlike most of 17-year-olds from normal families, good families like my family, I also had the balls basically to face my parents. And obviously, as you can imagine, they were not particularly pleased, right? And Rocky, let me tell you, Poland is not like US or even the UK, where you hear about the likes of Richard Branson and Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs never graduating, etc., etc. Everyone in Poland finishes at least high school. Everyone. Only if you are intellectually incapable, or it's a very small percentage of people, only those people wouldn't do it, right? And they would just get some job or some, like, they would go to like institution of some sort, right? Like everybody finishes at least high school. And most people go to university of some sort, right? Because you see, in Poland, you won't even get a job at McDonald's unless you have a high school diploma. And you won't be able to be a manager of McDonald's unless you have a university degree, right? So the emphasis on education in Eastern European countries is much stronger than in the US, Canada, Australia, UK, right? To the best of my knowledge, right? So it was such an unpopular decision and move. I don't know anybody, I've never heard, not that I haven't met anyone, I've never heard about any other Polish person quitting school at 17 to this day, right? So it was both ballsy, many would say reckless, but having the benefit of the hindsight. So, 22 years later, I consider this to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. Because even though I didn't graduate from that, I never went to university, sure enough, you know a little bit about me, and you know that I'm not doing too bad, right? So it clearly shows what many people already know, is that you don't necessarily need to graduate, have a diploma, certificate of any sort to do well in life.
No, you don't. As a matter of fact, just 2 episodes ago, we had the president of a college come on and talk about how they don't teach and the problem all the way through to the Ivy Leagues. So I get it. It's a message that is clear, but societally it's difficult, right? Because all this societal pressure is there.
Yeah. And like I said, especially in Poland, I mean, Rocky, you would have to see it's not that my parents were upset. It's not that they were sad. They were upset and sad, but they were, I'll never forget it. They had that look on the faces. They were scared that I've lost it, because it was such a unconventional decision to be made for 17-year-old in Poland. They were just afraid that I've just lost my mind. And I didn't, because it wasn't like, oh, you know what, this is boring, I'm out. It was something that was building up. And the only reason I didn't quit it at 16 already is because at 16, my balls were not quite big enough yet to face my parents, to face the anger, the disappointment, the consequences of my action, basically, you know. But by 17, I was ready. I quit. I remember like it was yesterday. First subject of the day, first class of the day, whatever you call it. And I remember beautiful day, October, nice and sunny day. And I remember I just had this feeling, this voice within me saying that the bell's gonna ring, you're gonna walk out and never come back. Not to this school, not to any other school ever again. And that's exactly what happened. And it was a great school, great teachers. You know, I had my first girlfriend from there, second girlfriend from there. I was involved in the school theater. Everybody knew who I was. I was a popular, well-liked kid, you know. So it's not like, oh my God, this school was a nightmare. It was the education element. It's how they were teaching me, or trying to teach me, all the things I had no interest in. And they weren't teaching me the things I was interested in, right? And I'm not saying I was interested in money at the time, because I wasn't necessarily, but that would be the thing, one of the things that I would imagine to get interested in if somebody presented me with an option of teaching me about it, right? But instead of that, it was physics, biology, chemistry, and all of that, none of the things I had any interest in, right? So I thought, hey, let me quit this environment and spend my time, because it's not like I quit school and I started taking drugs and I spent 5 years partying. I quit school and I just focused my time on learning the things I wanted to learn about by myself, which is one of the reasons why, if not the main reason why I am where I am in my life today. I'm not even talking about finances. I'm talking about life as a whole. Is precisely because I've committed myself to this personal development journey, teaching what I wanted to learn, how I wanted to learn it, when I wanted to learn.
So what did you want to learn?
So my beginnings of real development as a man, as a human being, started on the back of reading The Secret at the age of 23, right? So between the age of 17 and 23, I was exploring different things. I was very much into art. I went to the music school for a year. I was playing trumpet. The reason why I was only there for a year is because they sacked me from that school, right? So that wasn't me quitting. I just wasn't good enough, right? I tell the whole so-called trumpet story in my book in one of the chapters there. So I was into arts. Then I got into party drugs. So I had a year of taking drugs and partying. I really enjoyed that. I got to tell you. No regrets there, that's for sure. And I was really trying to find my way in life. And then 5 years of exploration led me to moving to London at the age of 22. And then I remember the girl I came to London with, one day she came back home and she told me about this book. She had the book called The Secret, right? I was like, what's that? And she told me what it was. And it sparked my curiosity to the point where I decided to read it. And that really started my personal development journey, right? I really got into this idea of bettering myself. And I just wanted to better myself across the board. I wanted to be as good as I could be as a human being, in no particular order, as a human being on a spiritual level, as a man in the context of, as a straight man in the context of dating. So learning about female psychology and things like that. And then obviously also from a career standpoint, that was the hardest because it took me another 5 years to discover my ultimate calling, which is coaching, right? So I spent the first 6 years after coming to London at 22 working in fashion retail, which was uninspiring for me, right? I learned leadership skills. I learned some coaching through coaching. I didn't know it was coaching, but looking back, my favorite part of my retail career was coaching my staff, right? And then looking after my customers. The knowledge that I then brought to my coaching practice, right? But as much as I like money, I'm the first one to say I like money. It's never been about the money. So when I started my coaching practice at 28, I wanted to be the best coach I could be. I wanted to serve my clients the best way I could. And I knew that money is going to follow, right? The goal has never been to make a lot of money from coaching. But at the same time, I knew I'm going to make a lot of money from coaching because I knew that no matter what it is that you do, and I knew that because I've learned that through personal development, I knew that no matter what it is that you do, if you do it well enough, the money will follow, right? It could be something super niche. Life coaching, personal coaching, whatever we call it, is relatively niche. But it could be something far more niche than that. Guess what? If you become the best at it in your country, even if your country is only like, it's not the biggest, UK is a big country, but US is obviously much bigger. If you become the best or even one of the best in whatever it is that you do in a country of the size of UK, guess what? You're going to be making a lot of money in the process, right? And then what's been always important for me is to share that with the people I care about the most. So because I'm a single man, I have no children, well, the first two people in line are the very two parents that I broke the hearts of when I quit that school at 17, right? So I'm not saying, because I would support them anyway, I'm not saying that the number one reason I've been supporting my parents in a big way for the last 6-7 years is because I let them down back in the day. I'll do it anyway because it's the right thing to do, because I can afford it, right? And they could use extra money, being pensioners in Poland. But it definitely makes me feel good knowing that I could do that. And it's interesting because they went from oh my God, our son lost his mind to our son is a genius. Not only he's done as well as he's done it despite quitting school at 17. And now, especially my father, my mother is not like that, but my father is a proud man and he doesn't have the best personality, right? He's, he loves the fact that I tell people smarter than me often, wealthier, far wealthier than me often, older than me often, how to live their lives. Or I help those people to have better lives. My father loves that. It's like my son, a high school dropout, is charging those guys this much money to tell them what to do. And it's obviously like he's simplifying it because I'm not like telling people what to do. We explore things together and then only occasionally I tell people what to do. And he's right. I don't care who that person is. You can be the richest man on the planet, the most beautiful woman on the planet, the most powerful person on the planet. If you come to me for coaching, guess what? I'm going to tell you exactly what I want, how I want it. And it's up to you, obviously, whether you take it or leave it, but there's no filter. And sure enough, I've built my entire professional brand around that idea of I will tell you what I think, no matter who you are, right? And when you think about high achievers, super high achievers, successful people, especially the ones who run their own companies, they very rarely have people in their lives who have the guts to tell them when they are wrong, when their thinking sucks, right? But it's the same kid who had the balls to quit high school in Poland at the age of 17. Now, the same pair of balls comes very handy on a daily basis when it comes to my work, right? Because that's not surprising. If this kid wasn't afraid to quit school at 17, why would he be afraid at 39 to tell some CEO with 100 billion net worth that he's lying to himself or that he's full of shit, right? I have no problem with that. And guess what? They love it. They love it because it's refreshing. Because unless you are, I don't want to get political, but unless you are someone like Donald Trump, narcissist, who thinks that he's always right, you want people to challenge your thinking. I love when people challenge my thinking because that's how I grow. Don't we all?
And it's true. I think a big problem with success is you end up in an echo chamber where people don't have the guts to tell you the truth. And then you make unwise decisions. And that's unfortunate. And my question was going to be, how many of them actually want to hear the truth? Or is it just that those who don't aren't going to show up in your coaching because they're like, this guy's going to tell me the truth. I don't want to hear the truth. I'm not going near him.
Absolutely. Rocky, you saw my website. I know exactly how many views my website gets. Obviously, you can measure those things quite easily, right? It's not rocket science. I know exactly how many views my website gets. And I know exactly how many inquiries for coaching I get. There's a big difference between those two numbers, right? So yes, some people will look at my fees and be like, oh, okay, I might like this style, but maybe I'm not quite there to afford it. And that's the reason why they don't contact me. But there's lots of people with money in London, and it's not like I'm charging millions for my coaching, right? So I know that the number one reason why such a high percentage of people who land on my website never reach out to me is because of the language, the style of coaching that I was describing before that is clearly displayed on that very website, right? And exactly to your point, not everyone wants to hear it. People know that they're not going to be able to get away with any BS when they enter this house, right? Whether it's physically or via Zoom, right? When we have that initial consultation and even during the consultation, if somebody's talking nonsense, I'm going to call them out on it straight away. They don't need to be a paying client, right? And listen, I'm not someone who goes around and tells people what to do, right? I don't tell my girlfriends what to do. I don't coach anyone unless they are clients or prospective clients who come for a consultation. Because if they reach out to me and they book an appointment with me, that's for me a clear indicator that they are ready to hear the truth. And that's exactly what they're going to get from me. Whether they're going to like it or not, that's up to them. I'm detached from that, right? And even when somebody decides to do it, when we have a consultation, goes well, and they decide to do it, I'm happy to do it. When there is a mutual decision of us, doing the coaching, I sent this email called Before We Get Started, where I go through house rules, so-called house rules, like cancellation policy and things like that. But one of the points is something along the lines of, I will always tell you exactly what I want and how I want it. It's up to you whether you take it or leave it. So people know. So it's not even, oh, this guy's like, it's clear from the start. You read my website, you get that feeling. And in case you missed that part of my website, you will need to read it before we start, because I send people that email. They need to send me a reply basically acknowledging that they've read the whole thing and they understand what they're getting themselves into. And I need them to know it before they make a payment. I don't want your money until you read this and you're okay with this. So if you read this, you say, I got it, and you pay me the money, that's you telling me that you give me a permission to tell you exactly what I want, how I want it. And I'm unconcerned. I say that in that email as well. I say something like, I'm unconcerned about hurting your feelings or bruising your ego, right? And this is not obviously some power trip. I've never met. I can speak for my whole industry here. Like, we don't get a kick out of it. I don't get a kick. That's not my kink, right? So for me, it's not about like, I can make myself feel powerful by telling, especially other powerful people, that they suck at certain things. Or when they say something like that, then I'm going to challenge them, and I get a kick from it. Far from it. I do it because they come to me for help, and I want to help them become the absolute best version of themselves. And I'm not going to achieve that by telling them what everybody else is telling, how amazing they are, and how successful they are. They already know it, right? But clearly they're coming to me because there's something missing in their lives. And my job is to do everything I possibly, physically, humanly can do in order to help them achieve whatever there is they want to achieve.
That makes a lot of sense. So what prompted you, though, to get into coaching?
You see, it wasn't something that I've decided, and I don't want to go to weird, into this airy-fairy, to take this airy-fairy path, but it didn't feel like it's something I've decided to do. It really felt like something that's been decided for me. It was a little bit like that story I was telling about how I heard that bell ring and I walked out of the school. It wasn't like an actual voice, right? Like, I don't have I haven't been diagnosed with any mental problems. I don't hear voices. I'm not schizophrenic or anything like that, but not that I'm aware of anyway. But it was very, very strong. So the school one was a strong one. The coaching one, when I was 28, was like I was hit with a brick. It was like this voice telling me, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I can only compare it to, I remember my cousin many years ago. I was a teenager. My cousin was still 7 years older than me. So he was in mid-20s. He had a friend who was a priest. And that priest told my cousin, and I heard that story from my cousin, how he went about becoming a priest. He said, that priest, a friend of my cousin, said that he was, I don't remember, I think he was in his late teens or early 20s or something like that. And this one day he wakes up and he literally saw what he described, he saw Jesus Christ in his room, saying, basically pointing at him, saying, you're going to become a priest, right? So there was nobody in my room at that time, right? There was an actual voice that I heard. But when I felt what I felt at 28, I remember thinking about that story that I heard about this priest guy, because it felt a little bit like that, right? So it wasn't like, what could I do? Let me go through the options. Maybe coaching, maybe I should try that. I understand that many coaches get into coaching like that, and there's no right or wrong way of getting into coaching. But without a doubt, I feel that one of the reasons why I am where I am within my industry is because that feeling was as strong as it was, right? Number one. And number two, it's been 10 and a half years, right? And it hasn't left me for a minute. There wasn't a minute, there wasn't a second, or maybe a second of a bad consultation when I just felt like, oh my God, this person was awful. I really didn't enjoy this person. So maybe for a second, I would think, maybe I could do something else, right? But that was just no, that's just a bad consultation, So it's like this unconditional love. It's like a love of a dog it's unconditional, Me and coaching is not like cats and humans. Me and coaching is like dogs and humans. When the dog loves you, it just loves you. It's unconditional, right? So for me, it doesn't matter if I have a good month or bad month. If this client does this or this client does the other, is just something that is just I caught it at 28, this love for it, and it's never left me. And I don't see this leaving me anytime soon or if ever.
So how does a 28-year-old essentially kid start coaching people who are at the top of their game?
Oh, yes. So without a doubt, I haven't started by coaching people who are on the top of the game. So occasionally, yes, some of my first clients were already successful, but that was quite rare. I was charging £20 per session when I first started, which is way below the UK's average or like world's average, which would be around $100 or £100 in here, right? If you charge per session. So £20 per session. Why did I charge £20? Multiple reasons. Number one, I knew that even though I was a cocky little shit, and I already spent 5 years working on myself with great success, I was in a good place. But as you said, I was a kid. Let's say, when you're a 28-year-old guy, you think you are a man, and then you get to like 35, you look back, and no, I wasn't really a man. I thought I was a man, right? So I was a kid. Yeah, 28-year-old woman, that's a different story. 20-year-old woman, it's a woman. 20-year-old guy, it's a boy, right? So coming back to what I was saying, the number one reason why I was charging £20 per session, no more than that, is because I didn't feel like I could justify charging more than that because I didn't know what I was doing. So I had my shit together as a human being. I knew how to talk to girls by then because I taught myself how to talk to women and be good in that area of my life. I was healthy, like fitness-wise, diet-wise already. So I was in a good place. The one thing that was missing was money. I was broke. I wasn't at the £0 net worth level. I was on minus £5,000. So I was stretched out on my credit card and the overdraft when I started my coaching practice. But still, I needed the money, but I couldn't in my head justify charging more than £20 per session since I didn't know what I was doing as a coach, right? So I very much experimented on my first 20 clients. So I had 20 clients at £20 per session before I built enough confidence in my ability as a coach to start charging £50 per session, which was still below the average. And I've done it for 6 months. Then I was charging £75 per session for 6 months. Then £100 per session for 6 months. So basically what I've done over the last decade and a half, 10 and a half years, I've been pretty much doubling my fees every now and then as my confidence in my ability as a coach would go up. And my confidence in my ability as a coach is naturally closely correlated to the results my clients get from coaching. So it took me a few years, coming back to your question, it took me a few years to become, quote unquote, attractive to those real high achievers, right? And it's only in the last few years, after coaching for 7-8 years, I became really, quote unquote, attractive to those people, right? I had to become really successful myself in my own right for those people to really take me seriously. And I understand them. I totally understand them, because if you are playing at the highest level, yes, most of my clients are far wealthier than me. So it's not about okay, this coach is not making as much as I do. Why would I? No, because they don't come to me for advice on how to make money. They know better than me how to make money. They come to me for different reasons. But what they do appreciate, however, is that in my respective field, I am at the top of my game, and they resonate with that because they're either on the top of their game in their field, whatever the field is, or they want to be on the top of the game. They want to be at that top tier within the industry that they're in, whatever the industry is.
Today's episode is sponsored by Profit Answer Man Podcast. Did you know that most small business owners hate looking at their financials? It's one reason they may struggle with business success. The Profit Answer Man podcast helps them ensure they are profitable and can pay their employees and weather the storms we all have to face. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. So you've talked about these people. They're high performers. They're at the top of their game or close to it. What are the biggest problems they're experiencing? What are they coming to you for?
There's a very simple, so you see, very rarely when I get an email inquiry, they actually say it or put it like that. But at the end of the day, I know that the number one reason those people come to me is because they're not as happy as they know they could be. That's not to say that they are unhappy when they come to me. So very rarely these days, back in the day, yes, I work with all sorts of people. But most of the people that come to me for those initial consultations, which is the first step towards the potential coaching relationship, they're in an okay place. They're in a good place, except, especially when you're a high achiever, except that good is not good enough for them. They want better than good. And that's where I come in to close the gap, to help them to close the gap between the good and exceptional. Not financially speaking, because as we said, money is rarely a problem for my clients. It's not about, hey, can you help me make more money? That's rarely what I help people with, unless I occasionally mentor other coaches. And yes, then we talk about like how they can increase their revenues, etc. But more often than not, it's how to take someone who is, let's say, at 5 out of 10 on the happiness level. That's something that we measure, right, at the start. How we can take them from 5 out of 10 on the happiness level to 8 out of 10 on the happiness level. And I say 8 because those people, most of them, they don't believe in 10 out of 10. They are 10 out of 10 when they're on coke, you know. Like, yeah, I'm not 10 out of 10 myself, unless I'm on coke, which I haven't been for a very long time, right? So 10 out of 10 on the happiness level, come on, right? Yes, occasionally you're going to feel like that, but we're talking about the average, right? Let's be realistic. 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 already, it's a very, very high score. And like I said, people these days, they do not come to me, not that I would have a problem with that. You know, if I could help them out, you know, I'd be more than happy to, but it's very rare for me to meet someone who would score themselves at 0, 1, or 2 out of 10 on the happiness level, right? So my work is very much based around taking people from this functional level, or often highly functional level, to exceptional level, as opposed to dysfunctional level to functional level, which in general terms, coaching is not best suited for anyway. The therapy is better suited for taking people from dysfunctional level to functional level. Whereas as coaches, we take people from a functional level to exceptional level. And the difference between me and other coaches is predominantly in the fact that the people who come to me are often, not always, but often in a very strong financial position. They've won in the money game. And I would sometimes say to my clients, I said to one ultra high net worth client last year, I said to him, and I knew this guy is smarter than me. So I knew that he's going to know that I'm trying to trick him. So that was like obvious, because I said to him, listen, I challenge you to build as much happiness as you've built wealth, knowing how competitive he is and all of that. And he gave me that look. And I knew he's going to give me that look. He gave me that look. I know what you're doing. I can see right through this manipulation, you know, and I know that you know that I know, you know. So I was like, yeah, like I wasn't trying to hide the fact that I was trying to manipulate the outcome, which is exactly what I was doing. And then guess what? He's a much happier man right now.
So what's preventing them all from being happier? Like, are there common themes?
Sure. So I remember I was few years in my own personal development journey. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to just have a great relationship or great relationships with women. I don't want to just be in a good shape. I don't want to just have a fulfilling career. I don't want to just have enough money to be able to afford anything I want to afford for myself and for people I care about. I want all of it. And I'm going to do whatever it takes without compromising my values, so without hurting anybody, to get what I want, and I will get it. And I will not stop until I get it. Right? And that's exactly what I did. So it was clear to me that I need to address different areas of my life in order to build the kind of life that I want for myself. Very often, to answer your question, very often the people who are in a very strong financial position, they got there to the detriment of other areas of their life, right? Whereas I was working on different areas of my life throughout my life, so I could tick all those boxes for myself, not just the money box, right? And it's not that hard to help those people, because if they are smart enough, hardworking enough, motivated enough, resourceful enough to build that kind of wealth, it's very easy to help them become happy as well, right? Because there's already track record of them achieving something, right? So actually, those high achievers, super high achievers, they're the easiest to coach because they get it. They know how to get the job done. They just need a little bit of direction. And I'm the guy who comes and gives them that direction. And we work together as a team for a few months. Typically, that's all we need to take somebody from 5 to 8 out of 10 on the happiness level. It's I can do it after doing it for 10 and a half years with around 500 people. I could literally do it with my eyes closed. And I enjoy it just as much today as I did when I first started, right? So it's just so much fun, and just seeing people becoming happier, excuse me, seeing people becoming happy in front of my eyes. I mean, it's so much fun. Sometimes I somebody pinches me because I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. Like, I get to spend time with these people because they're so much fun. And they're so inspiring, and they're often so smart and so accomplished in their fields. I get to spend time with those people, seeing them becoming happier versions of themselves with my help, and I get paid for it? Are you kidding me? In my own house? Like, I don't even need to commute to experience. They come to my house. And more often than not, they become my friends. And we stay in touch. And I have been building this network of those amazing and often powerful individuals over the last 10 years, and I'm getting paid for it. I mean, is this for real? Like, I love my clients. Like, I love them. I love spending time with them. I would spend time with them even if I didn't get paid for it. Right, so that hasn't always been the case. I can't say that about every single client I've worked with, right, from day one, because there was no selection process, if you will, at the start. Anyone who was willing to pay and wanted to work with me, sure, I wouldn't say no to anyone. It's different these days, and my website, the way it's written, and the fees and all of that. That's the big filter for a lot of people already. And then the initial consultation is like a second stage interview, if you will. I'm not saying I'm interviewing them. What I am saying is they're interviewing me and I'm interviewing them at the same time, right? And then if they make a cut, if I make a cut, then we partner together and we work together for typically a few months. Sometimes few months becomes few years because people just continue and continue. They, I can't get rid of them sometimes. I'm that good, Rocky. I'm that good. No, but it's just, they get benefits from it. Obviously, money is not a problem for many of them. So they think to themselves, why should I stop? It's like, you get a personal trainer sometimes. with a certain fitness goal in mind. You achieve that goal within a few months. But if you like that trainer, and if you can afford to continue always training with that trainer, why would you stop, right? So that's exactly why more than half of my clients right now are people who I've worked with for the initial few months that we agreed to, and then they continued beyond that initial, like, even though they got that 8 out of 10, right? To put it simply, they got that 8 out of 10 on happiness level. They continued beyond that because they just couldn't think about the reason as to why they shouldn't.
So you've worked with a lot of high achieving people. You also coach people who weren't early on. What is it? What's the secret ingredient that makes these people so high achieving?
Sure. Very simple answer. Hunger. It's not the IQ. It's not the EQ. It's not the likability. It's not a nice person, but it's the hunger. It's the hunger. You can be the smartest, most polished, most articulate person, beautiful in appearance, speaking 5 languages, having 3 degrees, and still be unsuccessful in life if you lack hunger. And equally, you can be obviously the smarter you are, the better. But you don't need to be super smart. I don't consider myself to be super smart. I know I'm smart, but I'm not super smart. And I've always been aware of that. Like for example, I know I wouldn't be smart enough to ever, even if I wanted to ever get a job at NASA, for example, right? Or even to get a medical degree. That would be very difficult. Probably I could get a medical degree, but it would be very, very difficult for me because I know how my brain works, right? And where my IQ level is, more or less, right? But what I do have that most people don't have, not at this level, I mean, is so-called life intelligence, right? And having a choice between having higher IQ to the detriment of my life intelligence, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it because I would rather be even less smart IQ-wise than I am and have my so-called life intelligence than be the super smart person with this amazing, with this amazing analytical brain, but then not having a great life because I can count. I mean, I'm just simplifying it, but I can count perfectly, but then I don't know how to talk to people. But hunger, without a doubt, hunger. You pick your target, whatever it is. Right. So whether it's a girl that I like or a goal of any kind, I pick that target and I'm relentless. Right. That hunger leads to me just being relentless in the pursuit. And I find that to be a number one characteristic of all the successful or the most successful people. It's not the intelligence. It's not the physical appearance. It's not the upbringing. It's certainly nothing like the gender, skin color, any of that. Is the hunger. You either have it or you don't have it. Is it something that is in genes? I don't know. I don't know the answer for it. I don't think anybody knows how much of that is genes, how much of that is the nurture, the upbringing. Because you see, my parents, they are lovely people. They're not ambitious. They're just normal people in terms of ambition level. They're normal, right? There wasn't anybody highly ambitious that I had exposure to growing up. Yet I happen to be the way I am somehow, right? So I don't know what it is, but without a doubt, because some of the people I've worked with, they're like, this guy or this person, they're not even that smart, right? And they've done so well. And for me to say that it's like they can't even communicate very well. So it's not about, yes, people's skills are very important as well. So it's definitely like top 5 on the list. If you ask me, give me top 5 things that are important to become successful, I would definitely put people skills in the top 5, right? But like I said before, even if you have amazing people skills, if you are extremely articulate and speak 5 languages, if you don't have that hunger, and I see that very clearly when I occasionally work with the children of very successful people. So parents pay for the coaching. I work with children. They're lovely. They're very polished because they grew up in a certain environment. They're very well mannered, very well spoken, very well educated. But the hunger is often missing because they've never had to fight for anything. Everything has always been given to them, right? And then I try to help them, and sometimes I can't, because I can't make you hungry. Just like I can't make you fall in love. In the same way, I can't make you hungry. I can help you try to find that hunger within you, or more hunger within you. But ultimately, it's an inside job, right? I don't care how good, I might think that I'm the best coach on the planet, but even the best coach on the planet wouldn't be able to do the impossible, which is for someone who fundamentally lacks hunger to suddenly become hungry and driven and relentless and determined to do whatever it takes to get what they want.
And I think that's the $1 million question, is how do you create the hunger? And I know with kids, that is the issue. When you're wealthy, you're like, how do I make sure my kids have hunger? Because as you've said, they've been handed everything. So more often than not, they haven't had to do that. Have you noticed with your clients that they grew up in an environment that created hunger, or is that not necessarily so?
Okay, in my experience, sorry, I have to cut this out because I was talking to my client for hours and I'm talking to you. I'm losing my voice. Apologies for that. So coming back to the question. So okay, in my experience, there isn't any particular part of someone's upbringing that would make them hungry. So I've worked with people who are hungry, who came from all sorts of backgrounds. I came across people who completely lacked hunger from all sorts of backgrounds as well, right? But one thing for sure, and this is something I tell my wealthy clients who have children, I say, listen, trust me when I tell you this. Don't screw your kid up. So let's say someone has, like one of my long-term clients he's about to have a first kid because his wife is pregnant, and she's almost there on the finishing line of that pregnancy. And I said to him, listen, I know it's your daughter hasn't been born yet, but don't screw her up, because you have the resources for it. Do what. And I told him the story about a female client that I had. She was young when she came to me. She was 29. She came from a wealthy background, so her parents were wealthy. However, her father is a genius, because he said to her, listen, I will support you until you are 25, and then you're on your own. And that's exactly what he did. I have never coached a child, a so-called trust fund baby, as I call them, so children of wealthy people. I have never in my life have seen such driven trust fund baby in my life. Never. Because, and this is, I think what I have made her even more driven is the fact that for 25 years she was used to luxuries. And then she knew that her then her father cut it off, right? And she knew that the only way to recreate that kind of lifestyle that she was used to was the only way. There's two ways. One is to make money for herself, another to marry rich. But because this particular woman wasn't interested, and still is not, in relying on a man to support her, she started her own company. She's about to launch, and I was helping her at a very early stage. I invested in this company because she's just so impressive and so driven, hungry, and all of that. Even though she came from a household that could spoil her. But you see, and that's what I said to my client who's expecting his first child. So listen, of course, like I see, I say those things to my clients, and then I don't have my own kids, and I see what I do with my nephews sometimes. And I was like, oh, I'm doing to my nephews what those I need to be careful. Like I need to be taking the pill that I prescribe to my clients, because it's like so easy to just like, oh, tell other people what they should do, and then you make similar mistakes with your nephews by spoiling them a little bit, by making it a little bit too easy for them, just because you have a little bit of cash, right? So I'm very aware of that, and I want to make sure. I mean, they're quite young; they are 12 and 17 right now. But I want to make sure that I don't overdo it, right? I don't make the mistake of making it too easy for them, because then they will end up, or they might end up like some of my other trust fund, quote unquote, trust fund baby clients would come to me at 25, at 28. I had one client at 34, and there was just no motivation to do anything, because he knew that he doesn't have to worry about money for the rest of his life. He doesn't have to think about the money for the rest of his life, and all his needs will be taken care of. So when you think about it, it's like when somebody is broke, like I was for the first 30 years of my life, it's like, oh my God, wouldn't that be amazing to be in that position? We would envy if we are broke, we would envy someone like that. I gotta tell you, I saw it firsthand, and this is just one example. It's not a pretty thing to look at, because this guy was, those people are often very capable, because if your parents are successful, usually they didn't get that by being stupid. So they're usually pretty smart. So if you have smart parents, you're probably pretty smart yourself, right? Then you have access to the networks of your not clients, parents, right? So that's there as well. So everything is there. But if your parents have never said, okay, we're going to only support you up to a certain point, then where are you going to get the motivation from, right? I remember reading about it a few years ago, how Will Smith and his wife took their children when they were like teenagers, don't know the ages, but like a few years ago, they sat them down. And they said to them, Will Smith and his wife, they said to them, listen, let's make one thing clear. We are rich. You are not.
I said the same thing to my kids.
There you go. So it's like, listen, just so we can, and then Gordon Ramsay. So like, you have Gordon Ramsay in the US, but like he's obviously very big in here in the UK. So Gordon Ramsay, I think he has 4 kids. I heard when they fly on, go on holidays, Gordon and his wife, they fly in first class, and the kids are in the economy class. Obviously not because Gordon Ramsay can't afford to put everybody in. It's just he wants, like, listen, if you want to be on this side of the plane, you're gonna have to work for it. And for me, that's the responsible parenting, right? And yes, like I said, I don't have my own kids. But I like to think that if I had my own kids, I would be following my own advice, because I've just seen the damage that giving too much to your kids can cause. I've seen it. And especially when you see that potential in that young person, and you see how they're wasting that potential because they fundamentally don't have the need to make money, right? And therefore they struggle with motivation to do like anything. It's just sad to watch. It's really sad to watch.
It is very sad to watch. So let's get people to take some action. What's an action step people can take this week to move forward?
Okay, so I have a standard answer to this question. Very, very a simple answer to this question. Get a coach. I'm not saying get Michael Serwa as your coach. That's not what I'm saying. I'm good, right? But and I'm not even saying get a personal coach or life coach. Whatever area you struggle in the most, whatever it is, health, fitness, diet, finances, relationships, there are people whose day job is to help people like you to overcome that very challenge. Why not use them? Why not use them? They're coaches for everything, right? There are generalists like myself I look at people's life as a whole, right? But maybe someone has a very specific problem, right? I have a client, she's a tremendous expert in the area of eating disorders, right? She's been faced with eating disorders herself in the past. She overcame them. And now she helps other women. She works with men as well, but predominantly women to tackle those, right? And that's not something I could help somebody with. Like, I'm so confident and all of that. But like, if you come to me with bulimia, I don't know how to help you. I know a little bit about bulimia. One of my ex-girlfriends had bulimia. So I know a little bit about the subject, but I know a little bit about property market. It doesn't mean that I will start coaching people on how to build a property empire. As a coach, yes, but not as a mentor, because I haven't done it myself, right? So whatever it is that you struggle with, there are coaches who can help you with that challenge. And as I was saying before, I started 20 pounds per session, right? There are coaches right now charging 20, 50 bucks per session. So like, oh yeah, I know, I hear what you're saying, but like, coaching is expensive. No, it's not. Stop telling yourself a story that's expensive, right? Anyone can afford, anyone who is listening to this can afford coaching. Not everyone listening to this might afford coaching with the coach of your the first coach of your choice necessarily, right? But it's not like only the coach you would like to work with the most is the only person who could help you with whatever you need help with, right? Just start wherever you can. But, I know about one woman who remortgaged her house so she could work with this coach in the US. And not only she remortgaged her house, she was traveling twice a month for a face-to-face coaching session with that coach because he doesn't do Zoom. He just doesn't do it. He knows how to use it. He's not technically retarded, but he just doesn't do it. He does face-to-face. He's like, you want to work with me? You need to come here. You need to come to me. So that's what she did for a year, twice a month, right? I haven't met this woman, but when I heard about her, instant respect, right? Remortgaged her house because that coach charges a lot, and she had to pay for the travel and all of that. So that's a big commitment. So people say, I can't afford coaching. No, I call BS on that. Yeah, you just probably don't care about solving that problem or that challenge that you face enough. And then you tell yourself a story that you can't afford it. It's not true. It's just not. I'm not buying it, right? Because I paid for coaching back in the day with the money that I didn't have, but I wanted the coaching of that particular coach at that particular time, and I created the money. I didn't steal it, but I made it happen, right? So, number one advice: why trying to figure out for yourself? Why reading 10 books if you can work with someone, have few sessions with someone who's read 100 books on that subject, and they will be able to apply the knowledge from those 100 books to you over a few sessions based on the experience that they have, and help you solve that problem faster. I'm the first one to say, whatever I say to people sometimes when they come for a consultation, I say, listen, I'm the first one to tell you, whatever you need help with, you out of all people, you, the high achiever, you can get them by yourself. I'm the first one to tell you that, right? The question is, do you really want to spend 2 years of figuring this out if I could potentially help you with that in 3 months?
It's about speed. It's about time. And it's also about getting through the friction. People hit a friction point and then they give up. When you have a coach, you push through the friction and you make it possible.
I mean, Rocky, there is a reason why every athlete serious about a career has a coach. And one thing that very few people know about or are aware of is that actually, unlike what most people would think, which is that life coaching is a form of therapy, life coaching, personal coaching, whatever we call it, actually originated from sport coaching. what we do is basically taking the tools and methodologies developed by sport coaches over decades, and we apply them to non-athletes. Right? That's what we do. I appreciate that the format is not dissimilar. So the optics are not dissimilar to what you see when you see a therapist and a patient. Two people sitting in front of each other, having a conversation over a period of time on a regular basis, right? So it looks like it could be a therapy session. The only thing that's missing is the box with tissues, right? I don't have a box with tissues on my coffee table. Guess what? My clients rarely cry because we don't talk about the traumas and things, the bad things that happened to them growing up. We talk about the future, right? We get excited about the future. So there's nothing to cry about, right? But in terms of my approach and the coach's approach, is not dissimilar to what you see when you see sports coaches in action.
Makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you. It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
My secret to living an abundant life, as cliche as this is going to sound, following your heart. Your mind is very much influenced by other people's minds, if you will, whereas your heart, it's only yours, right? So what we want to make sure of is something that Jim Rohn, one of my mentors, talked about a lot. What we want to make sure of is that what we do in life is the product of our own conclusions. Now, easier said than done, but between the mind and the heart, and sometimes they're in sync, as we know, sometimes they're in sync, sometimes they are not. If I have to choose between the mind and the heart, I go with the heart. That's what I did before I quit school, and that's what I did before I became a coach. It was the heart, it wasn't the mind.
It has served you well.
So far, so good.
What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
How to talk to women.
They don't teach that in school, right? They don't teach money.
I know, right? I know, right? And it's not like I try to keep things real in general. So I don't want to exaggerate and say, oh, I was this guy that, lost his virginity at 28. No, I wasn't. I was just average, right? I was 5 out of 10 with women, but 5 out of 10 has never been good enough for me at anything, right? And the reason I was 5 out of 10 with them was not because there was something fundamentally wrong with me. It's just I didn't understand female psychology, and I didn't understand it because nobody taught me female psychology until I taught myself in my late 20s. And then my entire dating life went from desert to tropical forest. Let me put it this way, and it remained this way ever since.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Focus on self-education more than regular education. That's not to say that I say to every 18-year-old, hey, listen, don't waste your time with traditional education. I'm not saying that because, hey, when I go to see my doctor, I like the fact that I know that he went to medical school, okay? If I ever need a lawyer, give me the guy with a law degree, right? Or the person with a law degree. So I'm not saying that traditional education is worthless, but if you combine one with the other, like the books are there, right? The books are there, the YouTube is there, podcasts like this are there. You don't even have to pay for like library card these days. Like everything is there online, accessible. Why not take advantage of that?
So very true. It's all available. You just got to wade through it and figure out what works for you.
Absolutely. If
people would like to learn more about you, check out your coaching, what's the best place for them to do that?
Very simple, myfullname.com. And then from there, I'm particularly active on Facebook. As far as social media platforms are concerned, I'm the Facebook generation. For years, I've been saying Instagram is for girls. But then I had this PR person, and then she was just, Michael, you absolutely have to create an Instagram account. Okay, so I did it like over the weekend a few years ago, but I'm not very active on Instagram. I put the interviews, which are recorded in a video format as well, on my YouTube channel. So there's quite a lot of material, interviews or talks that I've given and that have been recorded on my YouTube. And then I'm on LinkedIn as well, not very active on LinkedIn. So yeah, but michaelserwa.com, and then everything, including a link to my book as well, if anyone's interested in checking out my book. There's an audio version of my book available as well for those of you who prefer to listen rather than read.
Awesome. And we'll put those in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rocky.
It's funny. We get coaches for games we play. But for the biggest game of all, the game of life, people don't always get a coach. Begs the question, where do you need a coach? Which leads to this week's action step. Get a coach in whatever area you struggle the most. I've had numerous coaches to help me in various parts of my life, and they've helped me to achieve the results that I want. Sometimes you need them for a short time. Sometimes you need them for a long time. It really depends on what you're working on. Being great is not that far away. You heard Michael talk about it, some of his clients. It's really about the hunger to want to achieve and putting in the effort to get there. What are you hungry for? Do you live a life of regrets? If not, go for it. Go do the thing you want to do. Quick reminder, this is a personal development journey. That means you have to build your own roadmap. You can't follow someone else's. If you want to see coaching at an even higher level, Google Steve Hardison, the ultimate coach. I just read his book. Michael's mentioned in it. So is our past guest, Patrick Morgan. Quick question. Who do you know who could benefit from Michael's story today? Can you share this episode with them? I would appreciate it. Next week, we have on Bob Schlegel to talk about angels and entrepreneurs, a lifestyle formula for starting your own business and riding the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. You know, from the outside, it looks easy. It's not. It is a roller coaster. And so Bob will share some tips. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week. Outro music.